Cam Rogers here with you alongside Tom Downey. Hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Rogers99. Hit him up at WhatGoingDown. He just wrapped up some discussion about the 2019 NFL Draft. Time to look ahead now to the free agency period of the NFL in 2019. We have our top 15 NFL free agents.
And that's going to turn us into some more Khalil Mack talk as well.
Of course it will, yes, because we got some good stuff on Khalil, so stay tuned for that. All right, so with that, Tom, let's get into the list here with the top 15 2019 NFL free agents. And we'll start with a guy who just got hurt, Daryl Williams, right tackle for the Carolina Panthers.
I didn't drop him much because of the injury, because I think he'll come back later on in the year and be able to play like what we saw last year. And offensive linemen do get paid pretty heavily overall, Cam. He was very good last year. And as I've mentioned before, I think Daryl Williams is one of the more underrated players in the NFL when it comes to right tackles.
I agree.
He kind of goes under the radar, but he's been really consistent the past couple seasons and a very good player overall. And frankly, maybe their best offensive lineman outright, even when they had Andrew Norwell potentially, even though I know that you're a big Norwell fan.
I'm a big Norwell fan, but hey, if you have a good right tackle in the NFL, you pound that rock effectively. Daryl Williams is going to be a valuable guy in free agency. So, I mean, we'll see if Carolina can retain him. But
I'm very curious to see what ends up happening, because the injury will impact how much money he can actually get. And we'll talk here about some of the highest paid right tackles in the NFL. And my question on that end, Cam, is where does he end up slotting in? We've seen in recent contract moves with an Andrew Norwell, with a Zach Martin, that teams have started to ignore the position. Like they paid Zach Martin almost like a tackle. Could Daryl Williams get Lane Johnson or higher money? If so, can Carolina actually afford him?
So I think it's A, are you healthy coming off this injury? I think
big
it's
question mark.
B, I think there is a team out there that will pay a premium for this guy. I don't think it will be Carolina, as evidenced by what they did with Andrew Norwell.
If you're the Jets, don't you throw
Sure.
money at him?
If you're the Texans, sure.
The Colts?
The Colts? Maybe Seattle. I mean, they don't have the most salary cap space right now. I don't know what it's looking like for next year.
It does open up more next year.
All right, so you got Lane Johnson as the highest price guy, obviously, because I think he is the best right tackle in the game.
Easily.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to number 14 on the list, talk about the defense. Anthony Barr, linebacker for Minnesota. Things are going to get really expensive for the Vikings very soon, Tom.
It already has.
Yeah, that's
frankly.
fair.
I honestly don't know if they can afford Anthony Barr. Now they can do it. They can work the salary cap in a way where, yeah, you can afford Anthony Barr, but at some point, you're not going to be able to afford everybody. That is the downside of the salary cap era when you're a good football team. Your second and third and first round picks, they all end up wanting to get paid.
Looking at you, Rams, as well.
Yeah. So Anthony Barr, if someone leaves Minnesota, obviously Barr is the next guy up. And if you're Anthony Barr, you're probably asking for $12 million. Like, that's around where your asking price sits. Like, and not only that for Anthony Barr, out of UCLA, I thought he was a 3-4 outside linebacker. Now, he can and has played 4-3 backer. But what happens if Barr hits the open market? All of a sudden, you might not be asking for 4-3 off-ball linebacker money, which is, let's just say $30 million guaranteed over the course of your deal, about $12 million per year. You could ask for edge rusher money. And even then, even that it's just a couple extra million more, that will increase his price, and Minnesota might get priced out.
You think he could be in Kuechly type of territory
I do, because that's the way contracts work. They always get jacked up, and when you see premier guys like an Anthony Barr actually hit the open market, look how much Anthony Hitchens got.
It's a heck of a lot of money.
Hitchens is a quality linebacker. He's not a top 5 off-ball linebacker in the NFL. So if Hitchens got that, that's Anthony Barr's bare minimum, and he's probably asking for a little bit more.
I think it just goes to show it's not just the quarterback position where you see guys getting inflated price tags.
Welcome to free agency.
Exactly. All right, let's go to number 13 on the list. Take a look at the safety position here. One of the guys that I love to watch play, Lamarcus Joyner, recently got franchise tagged, so he's set to be a free agent in 2019.
So who are the Rams going to lose in free agency?
Exactly.
Because they got 3 names on this list still: Joyner, Donald, and Sue. Which ones do you lose, or do you lose any of them? Probably going to lose at least one from a money perspective, and it's very interesting for me to see what's going to happen in next year's free agency with the safety market, because it was pretty brutal this year. But next year, you've got 3 of the top guys, or actually multiple top guys, potentially in the open market: Joyner, Tyrann Mathieu, Landon Collins, Earl Thomas could all be free agents.
These are brand names, too.
And those are like, I mean, if you're building a list of top 5 safeties, you're going to see multiple of those guys' names on that list, even just top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So for Jordan to hit the open market, if he does, I would imagine it starts around, hey, can I get some Eric Berry money up in here? Or does the overall diminished safety market drop his price tag down?
I think that might be the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, the franchise tag, in a way, could be a blessing for LaMarcus Joyner.
Yeah.
In a way, he's getting overpaid compared to what he'll get year on year on his next contract.
I know you're a big fan of Joyner, so am I, but I think he's definitely behind some of these other safeties on this list.
I agree. All right, let's go to number 12 here. We know who this guy is. The Honey Badger himself recently signed a deal with the Houston Texans, Tyrann Mathieu.
Cardinals shouldn't have cut him. They decided to anyway. And when healthy, he is among the NFL's best. And Mathieu falls into a somewhat similar situation, I think, as LaMarcus Joyner, but for different reasons. Joyner maybe isn't quite the same elite and talent that Mathieu can be. But Mathieu, can he actually stay healthy? We've seen year in and year out Mathieu have some type of injury, be it a knee or whatever, and he was kind of slow to get picked back up in terms of athleticism from his last injury. So I think that will be a red flag for teams. It's one thing to spend, 1 year, $7 million, sold, signing up that as a great contract.
Yep.
What happens when it becomes a 4-year, $7 million per year deal, so $428 with 15 guaranteed?
And you're expecting 16 games a year at least.
Yeah, and it's probably not 7, it's probably more like 10. And you're paying him, $10 million a year at least, so 4 years, $40 million with, let's just say, 25 guaranteed. That becomes a little bit of a different discussion. Mm-hmm. And I think you could see Mathieu's market diminish a little bit, especially if he doesn't stay healthy this year. If he plays all 16 games, put him up higher on this list. He's going to be a top 10 guy easily.
We're talking about all these safeties here. I'm wondering if Mathieu and E.T. and Joyner, they're all just going to bring each other's price tag down.
You could see that.
I
think that's a very good point, unless guys like Joyner and Mathieu and Collins get signed beforehand, which I think could very well happen, and then it's all up to E.T. or whomever is left.
Or if one of them just absolutely balls out and the other struggle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about number 11 on the list. Ndamukong Suh of the Los Angeles Rams. If you're LA and you have Donald and you have Suh, is one of them expendable or no?
I would imagine so. At a certain point, the Rams aren't going to have any more money to pay
exactly.
these guys.
Even though it's LA.
Of the 3 here, I would think that Suh might be the odd man out unless the Rams really can't afford Aaron Donald. So if Donald signs, I think Suh ends up being your odd man out. Now, I don't think when Suh gets his new contract, I don't think he'll get another record-setting deal.
No.
He arguably really didn't live up to that contract, even though he's still a quality player. He's making less money this year. I think he'll fare well in LA under Wade Phillips, who kind of gives him that 1-year prove-it deal, cash in again next offseason. But as of right now, he's outside of our top 10 because, for now at least, Cam, it's a stacked free agency class.
It is.
It's really good.
These are some good names. I mean, we just talked about Suh, and he's at number 11 here on the list. Meanwhile, for the Los Angeles Rams, in a way, won the offseason. Can they convert that into a division title? Will the Rams win the NFC West? Let us know in this reaction poll. Give us a heart for yes, a like for no on Facebook Live. If you're watching on YouTube Live, be sure to explain upon yourselves in the comments section. I think they will capture the NFC West. I think the Niners are right behind them at second place. And it could be a little bit of a battle there between the Seahawks and the Cardinals for last place. So
I think it's a 2-team race for the top and a 2-team race for the bottom.
Perfect way to say it. All right, folks. We are presented by Man Crates. Go on and head to mancrates.com to get the awesome Grill Master Crate for the summer. There's no quicker way to separate the men from the boys than to observe how they manage a steak on the grill. The Grill Master Crate is for the man who is a cool operator when the heat is high, just like you, Tom, right?
Yes, I take care of my grill, and my Man Crates grill box is a very big help for that.
All right, mancrates.com, folks. Get it done. Let's go to number 10 on the list. The man from Cincinnati, Geno Atkins. Will the Bengals spend money, Tom?
Well, they do spend for these types of guys.
Okay.
I think the Atkins extension, also Carlos Dunlap coming up, A.J. Green down the road as well, are partially why the Bengals said, hey, we should cut George Iloka and save money. Because at some point, they're going to have to pay these guys. Now, the Bengals overall, Cam, have a pretty good track record of retaining these types of players oftentimes for a below market level deal. We saw with A.J. Green, for example, really could have demanded more, ended up not doing that. Now, the big reason why is that beyond George Iloka, which is probably the most recent example in everyone's mind, they typically let these guys play out their contracts. The Bengals probably should have cut Brandon LaFell last year. They didn't, and only did it once LaFell asked to be released. They probably should cut Michael Johnson. I don't think they're going to. And if there's some trust there between the Bengals players and the front office that, yeah, I'm probably going to sign for a little less than I'd actually make on the open market, but in the end, it'll be worth it because I'm not going to get cut 3 years into my deal once all my guaranteed money has dried up. So I don't think he hits the open market.
I don't think so either.
Long story short.
It would be crazy. Yeah. Number 10 is Geno Atkins. Number 9 here on the list, we've got David Johnson, who is in for a very interesting season because we barely saw him in 2017. He needs to have a really good 2018.
I think once we get inside this top 9, you really get into the, hey, these are the absolute premier guys that could sign record-breaking contracts at their position. And David Johnson fits that mold. Now, the big thing for me, Cam, the injuries are a concern. I need to see him play healthy for all 18 games because I am very concerned overall about giving out big money deals to a running back, given the shelf life.
And by the way, a guy who missed an entire year basically due to a wrist injury, is that common? I don't even know if that's really of a
It depends on the wrist injury, but he tried to come back and he wasn't ready yet. He could have come back had the Cardinals been in contention, but they were out of it. It didn't make sense to try to hurry him back by any means, and they played it cautious in the end.
Really intrigued to see how David Johnson will play this season for Arizona. New quarterback in town, new head coach, list goes on. So some changes there in the big toaster.
Plus the market for halfbacks in general was a mess. It's kind of Todd Gurley, Lev Bell, and everybody else based on their contracts. I mean, you got first-year guys on their contract season that are the highest guaranteed paid guys beyond Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
All right, let's go to number 8 here, and we have Landon Collins, safety for the New York Giants. One of the premier safeties out there. I think the Giants have to retain this guy, right?
I would hope so. He's a great box safety. You don't find guys that put up those type of numbers in most cases. Mm-hmm. Now, there were some fans who wanted Landon Collins above Harrison Smith when we did our top player at each position, Cam, and I'm going to argue for Harrison Smith every day.
Yeah, same.
But Collins is not that far behind. In terms of strong safeties, he is one of the best guys, and it should be an Eric Berry type contract, plain and simple. Like, that is what Landon Collins is worth. Pay him like that. Mm-hmm. He should definitely make more than Rashad Jones. We'll keep Cam Trench on there because that's what he's technically making despite his injury and being out for the year, but he's still going to count against the cap, so we'll leave Chancellor up there in terms of the overall market value. Landon Collins should get paid a lot.
All of a sudden, Harrison Smith, by the way, looks way underpaid.
Exactly, right? That's the benefit
in comparison.
That's the benefit of signing multi-year deals because year one, you get paid like the top guy. Then by year 4, it's like, oh, I'm kind of underpaid.
Yeah.
But I'll make note of this overall with the safety market and Dave Gettleman. Just be cautious with Gettleman because he's done it before and with Josh Norman. He has his price, and if you're not going to go at or below that price, he's not going to do a deal with you.
Yeah.
And it ends up working out long-term for salary cap purposes. But just monitor Dave Gettleman and the Collins contract talks long-term. Could be an issue.
We should monitor this story as well as we get to number 7 on the list. Earl Thomas, he is set to be a free agent in 2019 unless, of course, he signs an extension with Seattle. Certainly does not look like we're headed in that direction this month.
I'll get it out of the way to start, Cam.
Sure.
There is nothing new on an Earl Thomas trade.
Thank you, Tom.
All right.
Glad you got it out there.
Follow-up point. There is nothing any team, the Cowboys, can do right now to hurry up an Earl Thomas trade. This is up to Seattle right now to decide, A, are we going to re-sign him? B, are we going to trade him? Or C, are we just going to let him sit and pout in Austin? Because that's kind of where Seattle's at right now. So nothing new on the Earl Thomas trade. What will likely happen is he'll be a free agent unless he gets traded or re-signed. So he's not going to sit out the entire year and then be under contract again. More or less. So he'll be back at some point for some team because that just makes too much sense for him. If and when he hits the open market, I would imagine that Earl Thomas becomes the highest paid safety in the NFL because in my mind, Cam, there is no better free safety, and free safeties are more valuable than strong safeties because they bring you more in the passing game.
Especially in this day
No
and age,
disrespect to Landon Collins or whomever, but Thomas brings you more in that area of the game.
All right, should the Cowboys trade for ET? Let us know in this reaction poll. Heart for yes, like for no. We're going to go to number 6 here on the list. Talking about a guy who wants a long-term deal done. Le'Veon Bell recently got the franchise tag. He has not shown up to training camp / preseason. Looks like he will likely play the regular season, but Bell is done with Pittsburgh.
So all of these guys that we went through, it'd be kind of like, yeah, maybe they leave, but in most cases, they'll probably be back. Maybe there were a couple other guys that we mentioned as well. But Lev Bell is the first big-name guy, like true elite, like record-breaking contract guy. that's probably going to leave his
Yes.
team. His agent said he's probably done with Pittsburgh. Now, maybe things change. Maybe Lev Bell gets hurt and he signs for one more year with Pittsburgh on a relatively cheaper contract. But I think like the outcome is that Lev Bell leaves, goes to a team like the Jets, the Raiders, the Colts, somebody out there, and gets a massive, maybe around at least probably $15 million a year. Now, Todd Gurley has set the new, minimum baseline, but Lev Bell was still making more per year based on the franchise tag number. So Gurley's contract actually, I think, maybe ended up hurting Lev Bell because it's not as much as Lev Bell wants. So when Lev Bell signs, I think he's going to try and go for 16, 17, whatever million, because he wants to get paid like more of a wide receiver than a true halfback.
He wants to be valued.
He wants to be viewed as an offensive weapon, not as just a running back. And it comes back to, do you want to play the player or pay the player, or pay the position?
Yeah.
I tend to lead to halfbacks. I will pay the position.
Okay. All right. We've got Le'Veon Bell there at number 6. Let's go to the top 5. At number 5, one of my new favorite players in the league because he was just so darn cool about the way in which he got franchise tagged, and he was like, I'll let my agents take care of it. DeMarcus Lawrence, he doesn't complain.
DeMarcus Lawrence gets it, and it's not to say other guys don't get it. There's different ways of approaching it, but DeMarcus Lawrence's approach has been very consistent throughout. I get $17 million, cool. I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my thing, and then next year, when I put up another 14 sacks, I'm going to get even more money on the open market.
And there you go.
And we put Tank over Lev Bell and some other guys because I'm trying to kind of base it on, okay, who's going to get the most in the next contract? Like this is almost an order of, not quite for every position, but almost an order of, okay, who gets paid the most per year? You're going to pay an edge rusher more than Lev Bell.
Positional value matters.
So Lev Bell, I think his max in reality is going to be kind of like $17 million or so, unless some team blows him out of the water. But DeMarcus Lawrence, his starting point is going to be $17 million.
Oh, sure.
If he's healthy, of course.
Yep.
Because Lawrence and Vernon there share the exact same agent. So if you're the agent, you're going to ask at the minimum for what you got your old client.
Exactly.
So that's the minimum point there for DeMarcus Lawrence. And if he plays like he did last year, Dallas or somebody will open the bank up in a big, big way. And by the way, in almost all cases beyond Vernon, and even then, I don't think he was the same level of player as DeMarcus Lawrence was statistically and production-wise. You don't find edge rushers hit the open market like that. If DeMarcus Lawrence or some of the other guys that we have coming up here, they're going to blow some of these contracts out of the water because they're going to be worth a ridiculous amount of money.
We got D-Law there at number 5 on the list. Let's go to number 4, Jadeveon Clowney of the Houston Texans. For Houston here, they have a decision to make with this guy.
I would pay him. Now, it's worth noting that Clowney is going to play out this season on his rookie deal. He's not going to agree on those extensions before the season starts. Texans, the good news, have plenty of money. $53 million for a guy like Clowney and Mathieu, and plus another guy or two. They'll be fine cap space-wise. I think the big concern for Texans and Clowney is he's battled injuries for much of his NFL career. And when healthy, you can see it in the stats there. Great pass rusher, and also very, very good against the run. So I want Clowney on my team. I don't think he'll hit the open market, but he's going to get paid in a big way. He's going to get up there with that Von Miller type contract.
In terms of where you play Jadeveon Clowney, it's one of the more interesting questions that I have for you, Tom, in terms of 4-3 and 3-4.
I still think his best fit is as a 4-3 defensive end. That's not really the role he plays in Houston, which is a base 3-4 outside linebacker, but he's been fine.
Yeah.
So in the end, you can play him either spot. He is one of those guys that it doesn't matter the position. He's going to make plays.
Okay, Jadeveon Clowney at 4. Let's go to number 3. We thought this guy was going to get traded at one point. Actually showed up to training camp, Odell Beckham Jr.
Odell Beckham has done everything the Giants have asked of him.
Exactly.
The Giants wanted him to show up to camp. They wanted to see him healthy. Now it's up to the Giants to say, you know what, thank you, Odell. Here is now your record-breaking contract. And I'm very curious as to see what happens here with Odell Beckham. You kind of saw it earlier this offseason, Cam, when there was the debate as to whether or not Odell Beckham was going to be the highest paid player or not. One report said yes. One report said no. Here's where I think the difference came. The report that said yes was based only on this new contract, so the extension side of it. You know, hey, this is my 5-year, $20 million a year, whatever, or $17 million a year extension. I now make $17.1 per year over the lifetime of this contract. I am now higher than Antonio Brown in my per year figure. I think the report that said it wasn't the highest paid guy, that it was more of the $16 million range with Sammy Watkins, I think that was factoring in this year's contract. So not just the extension, but when you include the current year that he's going to be paid on, because you don't just tear that up. That gets continued into it. So I want to see what this contract looks like for Odell Beckham. Is it the true $17 million per year over the contract including this year, or is it more of a 4-year, $17 million a year extension? I'm very curious to see what happens.
And I'm sure he wants the latter.
He wants the one that pays the most money,
there you
without
go.
a doubt. He wants to get $18 million a year with this current contract included.
Okay, we've got Odell there at number 3. Number 2 on the list, going to talk a lot about this guy to wrap up the show, Khalil Mack. He has not been talking to the Raiders leadership right now.
I saw one more theory than it was a report, and I thought it made quite a bit of sense, is that the way NFL contracts work, of course, you have to have the salary cap space. You also need to have like the actual cash flow to pay out a signing bonus for somebody.
Yep.
And one of the speculation I saw was that the Raiders actually don't have that available right now. Mark Davis is one of the less wealthy, emphasis, I guess, on the wealthy part.
Relative.
It's all relative. They just paid John Gruden a big fat contract. They handed out some other contracts as well with a bunch of new signings this offseason, and they have to pay the relocation fee. They need to have all that money set aside, so they might have to wait till they get some of the ticket sales and all that to come in week 1. Maybe that's when you see the deal get struck. I don't know if that's actually what's going on,
interesting
but
thought.
it was an interesting theory that I had seen.
A lot of rumors out there about perhaps Khalil Mack getting traded. We'll have more about that later in the show, but should the Raiders trade Mack? Type away, T for trade, K for keep. Obviously, the Raiders would be smart to keep him.
Look, there are 2 correct answers here. One is trade, one is keep. If you don't think you're going to compete for a Super Bowl in the near future, then you trade him.
Yep.
You and I agree. We think Oakland can. In that case, you keep him.
All right, folks, so who's our number 1 player in free agency for 2019? We'll get there, but first a word from our friends at Man Crates.
Man Crates, awesome gifts for men in real wooden crates, wrapped in a cocoon of duct tape, or housed in ammo cans that are virtually indestructible. Some gifts he'll get to assemble himself. Some gifts you'll beg him to share, and some gifts are sealed inside layers of rock-solid concrete. Gifts guys love, from grilling gear to old-school video games and more. Man Crates, awesome gifts for men.
Number 1 on the list, Aaron Donald, defensive tackle for L.A.
Kind of cheating, but there was no way we're not going to put him on this list. He will be a restricted free agent, so not the true unrestricted guy because of his holdout. Donald, Cam, no surprise, wants to be and should be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. The question is, will it be the Rams who pay him, or will they say, you know what, this is not going to work out, and they have to make a different type of move?
It would be such a mistake if they didn't pay him.
I love Aaron Donald.
Probably the best player in the NFL, positional value aside.
Yeah, and I think you and I had said that before, and we're in agreement there. Now, I had originally thought that, it was going to be more of a $20 million a year contract for a guy like Khalil Mack, for a guy like Aaron Donald. As we've gone further along, I think I realized that I was wrong on that initial point, because you see the $19.01 million per year there.
Right.
But don't forget about the cap hits. The next 2 years, after the season ends, for Von Miller, his cap hit is actually above $25 million.
Unbelievable. I
I think that is actually the starting point for these new contracts, because those guys are like, hey, the Broncos are going to pay Von Miller $25 in terms of their cap hit. We should make that too.
That's Derek Carr, Stafford, Flacco territory
That's
of cap
quarterback
hits.
money.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got Aaron Donald at number 1 on the list there, folks. 2019 free agency, going to be very interesting to watch. Daryl Williams is there, Anthony Barr, LaMarcus Joyner, Mathieu, and Dominican Sue, 15 through 11 there. Geno Atkins, followed by David Johnson, Landon Collins, Earl Thomas, and Le'Veon Bell. And then the top 5, D-Law, Jadeveon, Odell, Khalil Mack, Donald. Tom, the theme there with those 5 guys, franchise players, cornerstone players.
Several players on the list that could have a record-breaking contract and then get surpassed by somebody else who plays the same position very shortly.
Such is life. By the way, other notable players set to be free agents in 2019 here, Tom. Tyrod, Nick Foles, Tevin Coleman, Golden Tate, Shaq Mason. Feel free to shout out if any of these guys really stand out to you.
I want to see what happens to Nick Foles once his contract actually technically voids next year. You can throw Mark Ingram on that list too if you want. Same with Teddy Bridgewater, maybe.
some pretty good players here on this board.
A lot of good defensive guys.
Sheldon Richardson, Grady Jarrett's a great player. Dunlap, a little older now. Frank Clark, Brandon Graham is really good.
I want to make note of this, and it's funny how this ended up working out, where you look ahead to next year's draft, and it is loaded with defensive talent on the front. You look at next year's free agency class, it is loaded with good defensive linemen. Kind of funny how that worked out.
It's not a good time to be a guard, tackler, center. No. I'll say that. Trey Flowers, KJ Wright, CJ Mosley.
Your boy.
Yeah, there he is. Ronald Darby and Adrian Amos as well with the Chicago Bears.